Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to or watching this. My name is Lisa. I'm one of the co-hosts of Link Up Leaders, joined by Francois Jeffrey. Today, our guests really don't need much introduction today. We have Dustin, Kane, and Kris Gramlich from their account executives at Solozo, but more excitingly, they are the hosts of 2 Amazon sellers and a microphone. Dustin and Kris, how are y'all doing?
We're great.
Good.
We're glad to be here.
We're so thrilled to have you guys on our show finally. Yeah. It's to return the favor.
Yeah, we were talking before this. I'm trying to match you guys' energy. Just every time you guys have me on, it's just gun ho, get there. Let's get this out there. So I love it. No, I love that you guys are on here finally. You guys are in Kansas City.
That's right. That's where we're at.
Home of the previously Super Bowl champion.
He put up a great performance. I mean, that was a hell of a game. I'm sure that was tough.
That was tough. Yeah, we're just expecting to win nonstop, and don't like to have old Tom Brady just do it again. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It is. I mean, he goes to Florida 1 year and he just turns it around. So that's nuts.
Now we're all focused on the Royals. I've got my Royals gear on, so it's There
you go. I'm focused on getting better weather up here in Pittsburgh. I got the short sleeves and got the light jacket ready to go right outside. So
it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, it is.
It's coming. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
For real.
But no, thank you guys for coming on again. I mean, of course, you guys don't need any sort of introduction, but I think what a lot of people really would love to hear, and a lot of what you guys talk about actually on your podcast, is a little bit of your backgrounds. I was creeping on you guys on LinkedIn, saw you guys were both formerly in sort of the sports and athletics background. I think, Dustin, were you a tennis pro?
Correct.
Tennis pro and Kris worked his way
up.
Yeah, you got to creep hard, man. It's all.
Yeah,
have you seen my LinkedIn activity? I've got stuff going on.
I still teach tennis lessons on the side. I mean, everything's a side hustle, man. You got to just whatever you can do. It's fun. So, but yeah,
you'll have to help me out. I'm terrible at tennis.
Tennis is it's a fun sport. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that was my professional career for a long time, almost 18 years. I was a full-time teaching pro. I coached high school tennis. I coached private lessons. I played college tennis. I mean, so that was my life. It's actually probably, when you teach tennis, even though you're working for a club or whatever, it's very entrepreneurial. I mean, you got to get your own clients. You got to give a good product. You got to follow up, keep coming back. So, that kind of spawned my entrepreneurial spirit, was being in that industry. And also it allowed me, I had a lot of time. So if I wasn't teaching a lesson, I was like, what am I going to do? And Kris, we talk about this a lot, but Kris and I are similar in the fact that we tried, everything. I did affiliate marketing. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I was looking for anything that was like make money online, make money side hustle. I dabbled in it. I tried to start a online scheduling company for tennis pros. So I got an investor, developed a whole app that you could do online scheduling. Great in terms of learning how to do all that stuff, like get investment, all that, but totally got killed by the people that were really doing that very well. There was a lot of big companies coming out at that time doing that. But yeah, that led to selling on Amazon, which I got really excited about the same time as Kris, 2014. Was just started listening to a lot of podcasts, learning about this opportunity. And it's like, I'm just going to dive in and do it. That's sort of what I've always done. It's just, if I see an idea, I like it, I just go with it. And it's like, okay, let's go. I put $500 into it, started researching. Back then it was a little easier. You could launch products a little easier, but yeah, launched my first product, and it luckily it took off. And about 2.5 years later, I was able to quit teaching tennis and move to Kansas City, where I'm from, bring my family back here, and meet up with cool people like Kris and cool companies like Solozo, and it's been a blast ever since. So, but I glossed over a bunch of roller coaster.
Yeah. You made it sound way too easy.
So easy.
Yeah. But we'll dive into that.
I definitely want to dive into that. That's I mean, $500. This is like the classic story I hear every time that I speak to new Amazon sellers. It's, hey, I have $500, I have $1,000, and I want to get started. And when we talk more about like their budget overall, about, hey, well, what about PPC? Well, what about, for your next order, if you run out of inventory, is the $500 just for product? Is it a fully customized product? Is there molding involved? I mean, there's a lot of factors to consider, right? What did you sort of get started with that $500? Did you just go on AliExpress and buy something?
Yeah, so I did. I mean, I kind of went in fast. I listened to all these podcasts about how to find the right product. I ended up picking something that I thought would be good. I could buy a bunch of units for pretty cheap. I could get them for like $2 or so. So I went on Alibaba, found a supplier. First one I found ended up being a supplier I worked with for a long time. And I just said, I ordered 100 units. It cost me, about $500 all in, And I learned everything because I just let them handle the shipping, and it came to me. And then, all the crazy stuff that happens, like a month later, I get a bill for the duties from UPS. I'm like, what is this? This is more money I got to throw at it. But launched it, sold them pretty quick, bought another 100 units with the money, sold them pretty quick, realized real fast, okay, this is going to work. I think this is it's growing. So then I actually went to a family friend and asked for a loan for $10,000. And
that's healthy.
That was pretty. I had a good relationship with them. They're great friends. But that was, I was taking a risk. I knew, but I'd proven the concept. It was going. And from that point on, with that 10,000, because like you said, I couldn't just keep ordering 100 units. I was selling like 30 a day. It's like those would disappear as soon as I would get it. And so I was able to make a much larger order. I don't even remember what it was, but certainly a couple thousand that I ordered, and then was able to keep reinvesting in it. I feel like I got lucky on that product because it took off. I always wonder if I'd have launched a dud at the beginning, if I'd have lost my $500, and if I'd have lost, if I'd have taken a loan out and then been upside down pretty quick, I wonder what I would have done. But that first product was a home run. And for years, that was my best-selling product. And that I just kept going and going. So that's you can. And now going back to, can you launch with little amounts of money? I still think you can today. I've launched a product recently that I didn't really spend that much money on, $200 in total, because I just bought a couple of units. It was a really niche product. So I think there's ways that you can, but if the sales grow, you are going to need some capital for sure at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and so with that, the $500, you mentioned that you bought it on Alibaba. Is it something that you added a lot of customizations to? Did you take something that was more off the shelf? They already offered it. So
the initial units that I ordered was straight off the shelf. It's a pretty staple, popular product. It's in the exercise category. It's a popular product for sure. So there was 1 million suppliers of it, and I just bought them. So it was basically the product in a clear poly bag. They came to my house. I put the labels on them. I shipped them into Amazon. The second order, I fully branded it, got the logo printed on the product, got my own custom packaging that I designed. My wife's an artist, so that helps. So she can help design. So I was able to save the cost there on like package design, etc. But sent all that stuff to the supplier. Now I learned a lot of things. Like I had my label printed on the packaging, the FNSKU label from Amazon. So I didn't have to do that myself anymore. Learned a lot from that early process, but after that I was fully branded, fully customized to me with my brand name. Didn't do any adjustments to the product. The product was selling.
But you branded on the product, right? You had a brand on it.
Yep, absolutely.
Did your MOQ change at all because you started adding these customizations?
Well, no, but that's because I think my initial quote was so outrageously high on the product that even after adding all that stuff, it was because that my price for that product over time as I got better went way down, and I learned a lot in terms of that for sure.
And did you fight with them? I mean, if you get a quote that's outrageous, sometimes, and I just see it more and more now, just because a lot of gurus and courses tend to say, hey, just no matter what, come in with a negotiating mindset and let them know you have to have it for this price, otherwise you're going to walk away. And it's kind of, I say it on every episode, but it's kind of bullshit. It's no way to actually start a relationship with them.
Right.
But did you go in sort of gun-ho negotiating, or was it just, hey, I'm going to take it because I know this is such a low MOQ and a low order value?
Yeah, I didn't do any negotiating on the first one. I just okay, I'll take it. The second one, when I added all that stuff and the price didn't go up, I just took it. I was like, okay. And then by the time I was making orders of 1,000 units, 2,000 units, the supplier actually flew out from China, and he was doing a tour of all of his clients in the United States, and he flew out. Wow. Came to, I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the time. He flew to Tennessee. We went out to eat dinner. We talked about his family, his kids. I mean, that's the way the relationships are super important. And from that point on, I always felt like I was getting a great deal. I felt like I was getting moved to the head of the line. Like if I put an order in, I feel like I was getting production done first. Flew out again. Once I moved to Kansas City, he flew out again and came out here to see me, and what was cool. He brought a bunch of new products that they produce. I was able to expand my product line, but we just developed a good relationship.
What year was this again? That you first started with them?
First started in 2014.
Okay.
Probably, and then that continued all the way until about 2019. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm not working with that supplier anymore, but we can talk about that. but is nothing really on his end. It was more on just competition and the way that product became pretty tough to compete with as Amazon grew and competition grew for staple products like that, or commoditized products, I would say. It got more and more challenging to compete on that. But that was my breadwinner for years, and it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, what about you, Kris? It seems like the beginning was sunshine and rainbows for Dustin. Was it the same for you?
I had a little bit of hiccups there, here and there. So I was more towards the end of 2014. I just went back, and it's kind of fun to do. I just went back on my Amazon account and looked at my managed FBA shipments and went back to the very first shipment I created just to see what it was. And the very first one was a crock pot that I was reselling. The second one was like a Rubik's Cube, and then the other one was a dog memory like footstep. And I looked back at that, and that's when I was just seeing what this FBA was. Like, how do you ship to FBA? And I was just grabbing stuff around the house and like shipping it off. Now that crock pot, my wife's like, "Where'd that crock pot go?" And it's sold on Amazon. So we had that discussion. I had to actually get our new one, but so I started. To kind of back up there, I went to school to be in the criminal justice field. I was going to do criminal justice, like be a detective, and when I was growing up, just like I'm sure all entrepreneurs, you were slinging sports cards, selling lemonade, all that kind of stuff as a kid, and so I thought criminal justice was going to be my thing, and it wasn't. I ended up getting out of that field and joined a company that sold sporting goods online. And started to learn e-commerce and started to learn like how you sell on a website and how you start to market products and started to learn that. And I remember going home and like learning how to sell on Amazon, like learning about this FBA. Somewhere I saw this on like how to make money online. You do that search all the time. You go to YouTube, how to make money online, and they give you all these things. And at the time, there was not that many videos. There was this one video on how to sell on Amazon FBA. I kind of went down a rabbit hole. Just started, and the guy's like, just go around your house and start selling stuff on Amazon to kind of get used to the process. So that's what I did. Well, the company I worked for, they wanted to start selling on Amazon, but they had a lot more capital. Like they were selling Nike and Adidas, and they were selling bigger brands. And so I was able to learn fast, like how to create a shipment, how to send it into FBA. And so after learning all that, I wanted to get into private label and do my own branding and do my own side hustle and make my own, brand. So my first product was a dog bark collar. I still have it. I'm about to sell out of it, and I can't wait because it's been a mess. It was bad. So it was either bark collar, shower head with LED lights, or Bluetooth speaker was the three products that I had that I was going to go after. And I remember getting all these samples. So I got, rows of Bluetooth speakers. I got the disco lights going on. I had a shower head with the LED lights. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. But those were the three products I stuck with the dog bark collar. And negotiating that, I didn't have the funds to do 1,000 orders or 1,000 units or 500 units. And I remember I went to a supplier. I didn't vet suppliers at the time. I found somebody at Alibaba. They looked reputable. The pricing matched up good as far as the return of investment and the margin on Amazon. So I started a conversation through Skype. And anybody who's ever communicated with the supplier, you're like during the day, you're working on your business, and about 5 or 6 p.m. my time, Central Time, it's communication with your supplier. How's things going? How's it looking? Where's the order? So they wanted me to commit to 500 units or 1,000 units at the time on a dog bark collar that cost $3-4 to make, and I just didn't have the funds for it. And I kept telling the supplier, I can't do it. I can't commit to that many units. Can we start off with the case? Can I start off with just 2 cases or 1 case? And I always got pushback saying, yeah, we could do that, but you're not going to be able to customize the packaging because your MOQ, your order quantity is too low. So I went back and said, what if I pay up front for the packaging? What if I pay for 1,000 unit or 1,000 packaging? What if I give you I commit to that now, but I'm only going to bring in 78 units because I don't want to run out of something. I'll pay up front for the packaging. So that's what we did. And the supplier was like, yeah, we can do that. As long as you buy the packaging up front, let's just do 78 units now, and then we'll roll to another 78 and another 78. So I went back and looked at it. I could see it was 78 units, and then it went to like 230 units, and then it went to like 500 units, and then I went to 1,200 units. But that whole time, the supplier knew that I was already invested with the packaging, that they didn't have a problem me just doing 78, 200. I could break it up. I used credit cards then. I didn't tell anybody about this. I didn't tell parents. I didn't tell my wife had no idea what was going on. She just like, DHL's here with boxes. I'm like, yeah, I got it. Don't worry. But yeah, I took out 2 credit cards. One had a $30,000 limit. Another one had a $15,000 limit. And I just started using those credit cards to buy inventory. And then as those 78 units sold, I went back to the credit card and paid it off, bought more, paid off, bought more, paid off. Now, I probably would not do that now. It was very risky. But I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was just trying it out. Mm-hmm. And luckily that bark collar did take off. I did have sold lots of units of that. I still do have one. It went from different variations. I added colors. I added a new model. But I will never do that product again. And the reason is because it's an electronic product and you turns like crazy. People return it back. It's got a lot of little parts. So people don't know how to turn it on. They don't know how to use it right. They don't know how to put it on their collar right. A lot of instructions. I was getting calls about how to set this up the right way. So it went from a really good product to now I had a customer service nightmare. So that's kind of the nutshell. That's how it started, really.
Yeah.
And that was also in like the 2014, 15?
Yeah,
range?
2015, 16, 17, towards 18 and 19, now 20, we're kind of getting away from that product.
Lisa, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, that's something that I never would have considered of having, like, the customer service nightmare of having an electronic product with all of those tiny pieces and, like, people not being able to figure it out. Because I'm the person, like, if I can't figure it out, I just give it to somebody who can. Like, I don't return stuff like that. I'm just like, oh, here you go, Francois, here's this thing. Like,
and the worst part is, like, it has a lot of little pieces. And if you lose a charging cord, now you get an email from a customer saying, hey, do you have an extra charging cord? So I'm scrambling down in the basement trying to find a charging cord to ship out to this customer. Little do they know that this is in my basement, that I'm trying to do this on the side. So it's like, there's just a lot of things moving along. So now when I do products, I look for something a little simple, something that doesn't have a lot of moving parts, that is a repeat purchase because I want people to come back and buy more. No electronics. I don't want to mess with that anymore, and just keep it simple. I think I made it more difficult picking that type of product at the beginning.
Well, yeah, I think, and so we run, several 3PLs and we get phone calls all the time, actually, from like Lowe's and Home Depot and Wayfair customer service, just saying, hey, I have XYZ customer on the line and they're missing this piece. Can you help us out and track it down? I'm like, no, we just put a sticker on this and we send it out. I don't know what you want from me. They get upset sometimes. I'm like, I understand why you're getting upset, but the seller is the one that puts in all the customer service information. They say, hey, reach out to such and such if, a customer has a complaint, and they incorrectly put our information on there. I can only imagine how difficult that would be for a small business owner that's running this out of their basement. And that probably, I don't imagine, or correct me if I'm wrong, I guess, did your supplier send you extra, charging kits or extra pieces that would often get broken or go missing?
Yeah, so that's a good learning point there. We didn't do that at the beginning for probably the first year and a half or 2 years. I just basically sent them a new unit. I would eat the cost and say, here's a brand new product. You can have it. And I was trying to give them really good experience so that they would go leave a really good review, right? Like I wanted the reviews to continue to stack up because I wanted them people to buy more. But at the end there, when we started getting returns, I would keep track, or I would like, hey, I sent out this, or can I get more nylon collars? And they had no problem with that because my order quantity went up. So they were no problem. We'll send an extra 100 collars with your next order, or we'll send you 200 more units to kind of offset the returns you had for the last 2 months. So they were really good at working with that. And I still get emails from them like, hey, do you want to add this product? Do you want to add this product? And as much temptation as I want to do it, I don't want to mess with that anymore. It was a nightmare.
No, I love it. It's, both your stories are true entrepreneurial stories that I think kind of has to do with the time, 2014, 2015. It was not to, diminish any of your efforts, but I think that was a little bit easier than it is today in regards to like competition levels. And you guys just based it off of the little bit of education that was out there and then just sort of blew it all up. 30 sales a day, Dustin. That's amazing. That's something that a lot of Amazon sellers can't see within 6 months. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's, it definitely has to do with the great product selection that you guys have. But I think it's important for a lot of new sellers and a lot of new entrepreneurs to also realize it is not the same environment as it was, 5-6 years ago. I guess at this point, 7 years ago.
Yeah, well, for sure. That's the case. It was easier in terms of, I think it was easier in that you had not as much competition for sure, especially for popular products. Like now, if you go into a popular niche, you can do it, but you need to have a lot of capital. You're going to have your launch phase, and the amount of advertising and traffic you got to drive to get ranked organically is going to cost you a lot. I do feel like there's tons of opportunities that are still not competitive at all, like tons. Kris and I were the other day, we were just looking through products. We're like, oh my God. Every product we were looking at, like, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity that you could rank quickly and be. And because there's a couple things that are factors. Number one, it's the competition, but it's the quality of your competition. How many reviews do they have? Are their images amazing? If you can find a niche where there may be a lot of sellers, but the competition's they haven't even tried with their quality, or there's no differentiations, there's tons and tons of opportunities out there. I still feel like one thing I want to touch on though, because I want to the quick story, the 30 sales a day and all that stuff and the ramp up. It was super exciting, but I can tell a cautionary tale for people.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
And I think this is, it's just part of this business. It can scale faster than you're ready for, and it can be tricky. So that 30 sales a day, well, when this goes back to just how fun it is when you're starting this business and you can like refresh the Seller Central app and you're like, oh my God, I just made a sale. Oh my God. You're like, it's crazy. You wake up in the morning, you're like, I made 5 sales, but while I was sleeping, this is insane. That's one of the best feelings in the world. One of the trickier feelings is when you're making so many sales that you can't keep up with your inventory. Mm-hmm. And, what it takes, if you put an order in with a supplier, I mean, it's at least a 30-day lead time for them just to produce it. Then it's 30 days on the water. Then now it could be 30 days to get checked into Amazon. I mean, there's a lot. And so for me, what happened was that 30 sales a day shot up quickly. It went, and about probably a year and a half after I launched that product, I was probably mid 2016 or so, 2017, I was doing about 300 sales a day on that product. And it was, I didn't have enough capital. I mean, I was having to now make orders of like 20,000 units at a time. And so I definitely didn't have that capital. So I took out, at that time, I wish there was this creative financing that's available now for sellers, because there's some great stuff. And there's some great companies that we talk to all the time that have designed financing that fits better for Amazon seller or for e-commerce sellers in general now. At the time, I was taking out more traditional type loans. So I was taking out these big loans, and then there was like huge monthly payments on these loans. Well, it takes time to get that money back. I mean, you can't lay out, whatever you need to do for 20,000 units and then be able to have enough cash flow for that first call payment. So it was fine at first, but then what happened at about 2018, mid 2018, this product became so commoditized on Amazon. And I made the biggest mistake of I just thought it was going to go like that. I was like, this is great. But I didn't really every day pay attention to what my competitors were doing. I didn't start A/B testing images. I didn't do everything that I needed to do to make sure that I kept my advantage. And I think somewhere around 2018, there was a lot of people were able to manipulate the whole system. If you had a commoditized product, there's a lot of people who could come in and in 2 weeks have 5,000 reviews, and and underprice you so much, and so my sales started really slipping. And now they were still good. I mean, I was still selling 100 units a day, then it'd be like 90 units a day. It was still amazing, but I had just taken out this monster capital loan, and so it got really nerve-wracking for a while there, because I did not have the cash flow to cover that. I had to start negotiating with my lenders. Can we reestablish our terms? There was a lot of things that I did that I wasn't prepared for that made for some sleepless nights. But that's, I took care of it. I was able to manage that cash flow, but it's things that those are things that you don't expect. You think, okay, it's going good. How could anything go wrong when someone's selling 300 units a day? It's like, that seems all rosy, but managing cash flow in this business is something that I learned the hard way. I mean, basically I had to liquidate that product. I couldn't order anymore because I wasn't selling through what I had, and competition my sales kept diminishing. So those are getting tricky. At the same time I was doing that, when it was going good, I tried to launch probably too many products. I had too much capital in other products at the same time, lost focus on that one. That was my driver. I should have been focusing on all of that. So there's things that you learn. Interestingly, I was talking to you about this before we jumped on, that I haven't sold that product in probably, 6 months. I finally liquidated all my inventory about 6 months ago. But every once in a while, Amazon will just find units in the warehouse. I don't know. It's like they'll find like 5 or 10 units.
We've seen that a lot recently.
It's like, so they'll find like 5 or 10 units. They'll put it in my account, and they will sell almost immediately. And I'm like, what's going on? And so I'm looking at my competition for this product. And so now I'm like, I think a lot of that I think I'm able to come back into this category, and I've got this product. It's got thousands of reviews, great history. So I'm going to relaunch. I'm going to relaunch this product because I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll do it smart. I'll do it in a much more cash flow wise way the second time around on this particular one. So anyway,
did you end up wanting to, or did you ever have an accountant that helped you manage that cash flow and let you know, like, I don't know, maybe I'm envisioning this too much, but is there someone out there like an accountant for e-commerce sellers specifically that will take your data, such as, your cost per unit and your shipping, and analyze it for you and say, hey, look, based on, these trends or this forecast that you have, this is how you should try to manage your cash flow and how many units you should order?
What's an accountant?
Yeah. I was just about to answer the same thing. I was like, that sounds like that would have been a good idea.
Yeah. No, it's I thought about that as I was describing all of it, but I wasn't sure if there was someone that was very specific for like Amazon, or if there was a company or something.
I think about this a lot, looking back. With the way things were going, I don't think anybody would have said what I did was a bad idea. Like, there's no way. I just think that what the trend was, I mean, everybody at the time, and it's still to this day, I mean, the worst sin on Amazon is going out of inventory. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you go out of inventory, you start losing rank, and that's hard. You got to re-rank. And I mean, this thing was a rocket ship. I was hanging on tight to a rocket, and I was like, I think, getting that, what happened was, the mistake was not the forecasting. The mistake was making sure I had a competitive advantage at all. I'm making sure that I stayed up with images. I shouldn't have focused on a million other products at the same time, because that was taking capital away. That might have been a good accountant thing, is, hey, let's reserve this capital for this product instead of spreading it around to others. So yeah, I think looking back, I would have not done that. But I also think, that's kind of how I operate. And I think Kris is the same way. It's like, do it. Let's do it. We'll figure out a way.
Riskier.
Yeah.
No reward sort of thing.
Yeah.
I had the same problem as Dustin. Like, we get, I think everybody does. We get into this. We're like, oh, it's so exciting. Source, launch, and just keep launching products. And then when you do that, you're like, I don't have a capital to buy the other product. Like, I was in the same boat as Dustin. When I told Dustin my story, he's like, yeah, it happened to me too. I'm like, okay, well, that's very common then. Because I was just sourcing product launching. And then we got too thin. We were way too thin. And I couldn't buy more of the main seller. And so it's just like, so now if I had to do it again, if I give any advice out there, like, focus on a product, launch it, get it to like 20, 30 units a day consistently, make sure it sells well, and then go on to product number 2 and make sure that one launches well, and just keep them going. That way you have the capital to launch other products and buy more inventory. You don't want to just take all your capital and spread it across all like 12, 14 different SKUs, because if one of those takes off, you don't have any more to reinvest in those SKUs. So that was a big problem. And no one told us that, right? We didn't know that. We were just launching products.
That's right. And the other thing is, you got to dump a loser quick. I mean, if you have a product it's just not going to work, just don't fall in love with it. Get rid of it, move on to the next one, because that can happen too. I'll tell you the other thing that is for a cautionary tale, because it's a cool story when you start a business and then one day you're able to go to your boss and quit your job, and now you're full time. It's
fire the man.
Fire the man.
I mean, that is a really, I mean, I don't know, there's not many feelings like that, where you've done something on your own to create this and now you can be self-sustainable. You want to make sure when you do that you're making a lot, because I think a lot of times you see people talk about this all the time. You hear gurus, oh, I'm a 6-figure seller, 7-figure seller. At the end of the day, that might not be that much money, coming down to you. And when things fluctuate all the time, I mean, again, I was making plenty of money to quit my job when I quit my job full time. But I think, especially me as a tennis pro, if I could have just stayed with at least a part-time, something as like some more income coming in that I wouldn't have to draw from the business too much, would make it a lot more comfortable to keep growing it. And now, of course, going back in time, I would have done things totally different. I've been focusing on exiting my Amazon business the whole time. I've been focused on this, selling it, and have that be the cash out that you quit with.
That's flipping insane money. Thrasio getting over $1 billion. Yeah. And Thrasio is just one of them.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, there's no way Kris and I were thinking about that when we started our business. We were side hustle all the way. We weren't thinking that, we might be able to sell this for $3 million one day, or something that's
crazy.
Big, that's real money.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could get that product back up there and then exit.
Yeah,
exactly.
Get back to 300 units a day.
And we are going to be chatting about that, Francois, later on, because I'm putting a request an RFQ in with you later today for sure to get this.
Let's do it. Things are back up and moving in China, so now I'm excited for it. Let's get that going. But one question though. So I know we were talking a lot about cash flow. What, I guess, if anything, did you guys try to negotiate with your factories or your suppliers for better net payment terms?
Yeah, I for sure did. I did. So at the beginning, it was 30/70, 30 up front, 70 when it lands.
Kind of classic.
Or 70, yeah, classic 30/70. But then moving forward, as the units went up, and this is probably a year and a half in, and we learned all this, again, by podcast, YouTube. Like, that's it. Like, we were just listening to stuff, and people would say, ask for better terms, or you just would hear stuff. So at that point, it was 30% down, 30% when it got to the port. And then once it left the port, I would pay the remaining after it left the port. So I wouldn't have to pay up 30/70. I would still put 30% down, but I wouldn't be in charge of be able to pay the rest until I actually got to the port here at LA. And then once it left the port and started its way to Amazon, that's when I paid the remaining percentage. So it did kind of help with the cash flow. That I wasn't so much invested, and I didn't have much cash around. I was able to work with terms, but that was a relationship thing. Like, I didn't get that from day one, right? Like that was something where every night, probably almost every night, that we would have a conversation, me and my supplier. How's it going? Send me pictures. Do you need this? Hey, we got a new product. Do you want to test this out? And it was just constant communication with the supplier. And I think them realizing that I was a serious player at the time and not just somebody throwing around some units, it kind of helped out, because I always paid. I didn't have to, play around with terms. I always paid on the percentages, and they got comfortable with me. They sent Christmas gifts. I constantly, like, it was a good relationship, and we did Skype calls and over Skype and stuff. And they were comfortable now where they were okay with giving me those terms. But at the beginning, I think they have to earn your trust, and they got to make sure you're a real player before you get stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, Dustin?
I agree. I mean, with my supplier, it was 30/70 basically the entire time. I mean, that was the terms. And I don't know if negotiating on that would have been more beneficial. That's something, again, the logistics side, the supply, I did whatever I needed to do. I didn't invest a ton of time in figuring out, can I save a nickel here? Can I save, and yeah, it probably would have made a big difference in terms of cash flow, making those adjustments. And maybe there's terms and maybe there's options out there that I didn't even know about at the time. But I was always 30/70, 30 up front, 70 once they were ready to ship it. So as soon as I paid the balance, they shipped it. But that was the only terms that I ever did. I would be fascinated to know other terms options available.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a ton once, and Kris sort of hit the nail on the head here. Once you establish that relationship with them, you're able to talk with them. You're able to not only, thank them for the good times, but also work with them during the bad times and not wag your finger at them. Once they see that you're reliable, you pay on time, just like Kris was doing, just like I'm sure you were doing, Dustin, that's when they are more open to that conversation versus a conversation of, hey, how can I get this 10% cheaper? Because once you start talking about cheaper, that's where you start talking about material, right? That's where you start talking about manufacturing processes, labor that goes into it, quality assurance processes. But no, I mean, as you grow, it's always a good idea to sort of drop that idea in their head. Just say, hey, I want to continue growing with you, doing 500 units now. I expect to get 1,000 within 6 months. Within a year, I think I'll be moving half a container load to a full container load. I would like to get 30% up front. You could even do like 30% up front, 30% upon shipping. So you're paying 60% at that point, and then the additional 40% once it arrives to the fulfillment center. I think they're very open to these types of conversations. The one thing I did definitely want to touch on with both of your experiences of listening to the podcast and watching those YouTube videos is I think that gets misinterpreted, or new entrepreneurs or new Amazon sellers will hear what they want to hear out of that. And what I mean by that is that they will hear that and say, oh, okay, well, I heard that they got really good terms and they negotiated, the 5 cents down, and they got low MOQ. So I'm going to do all 3 of these up front. And that is one of the biggest downfalls that I see. And it's frustrating, honestly, because it's like, hey, you have a great capital, you have, $10,000 to launch, you have sold on Amazon in the past, you've done arbitrage, so you understand, the technical side of it. You have all this potential to go in a private label, but you are asking for way too much. And that is like shooting them in the head and walking away. And once you tell them that you're just trying out too much. But yeah, I little monologue. I just wanted to make sure everyone that's listening that is not the case. You can't do, the best quality, best price, best payment terms all up front. Just like you guys said, relationship is really key.
Yeah. I totally agree. There's no way you can do that. I mean, and I think it's a good point. Just people hear tips and tactics and all the things that they can do, and they try to do it all right off the bat. And you're coming off too strong. You're not even a player yet in the space, and you're asking for terms that a seasoned seller would get from their supplier after building a relationship for 5 years. And that's, you got to. But going back, I was thinking about this. That first order I got, my price per unit for this product I was talking about ended up being a little less than $2 when I was rocking. The initial price I paid, now I remember the $500 was because I ordered 100 units at $5 a piece. So I mean, I was paying 2.5 times the amount that was what I ended up getting. And so my first sales were not even close to profitable. It was just proof of concept. It was just, can I sell this product? And I think if people approach it that way, then they're going to have a better start. It's the same thing with advertising. And Kris and I talk about this with people all the time. They're launching a new product and they're like, well, I don't want to do that because I'm not going to make any profit. I'm like, you haven't made a sale yet. Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna make a profit, and you got to spend some money on advertising, spend some money on you're testing out a product concept. So to get what Walmart would pay for that product on your initial one is not going to happen. It's like, so it's interesting.
Well, I've heard some new users of ours that were trying to negotiate just right off the bat with a $2,000 budget, a total budget for fully customized products. They were trying to get net 90 payment terms. And I was like, dude, Home Depot doesn't even get net 90 payment terms for a very similar product that I'm sure they're sourcing from China. No, it's crazy. But with those relationships also, I know, Dustin, you were mentioning a little bit earlier, sort of at the beginning, but you ran into some issues or some challenges with your supplier at the time. Mm-hmm. Would you be comfortable with talking like what some of those challenges were and sort of how you got over them?
Yeah, the supplier, the actual working with the supplier, we had a great relationship. The challenges weren't necessarily that. The challenges were I couldn't order anymore. When sales started slipping, I'd made a very big order. I mean, he was taken care of. There was no issue there. I mean, I was the one on the hook because I took a huge loan out. He got his money just fine. So our relationship was great, but when sales started slipping, and a year or so ago, or a year and a half ago, when I was exploring, hey, maybe I could start small again, small orders. Things changed. I mean, those prices were going to change. We were in constant communication. I was making 20,000 unit orders from him, and now I'm looking at, can I make 500 unit orders or 1,000 unit orders to get back into tests. He had been my supplier for a few other products that just weren't getting the traction. So like I was talking about, those are products that I killed, moved in different directions. So there wasn't really an issue necessarily with our arrangement or our agreement. It just wasn't going to be possible to continue like sourcing the product, the prices I was getting at now new quantities, much, much lower quantities. So, I mean, we just basically on that one is stopped communicating. Now going forward, there was a lot of things with that like, first of all, when we first talked to you, when we brought you on the show, I was opened up to a whole new world of consolidating a lot of the logistics and the supplying and the quality assurance and like the testing, all the stuff that you can do through one, because not just with the supplier, but with freight forwarders and everything else that I was dealing with to do it was too much. I wasn't going to be an expert in every one of those areas. There's no way. So now going forward, I'm looking to transition, and I'm excited to work with you guys on this first order, hopefully. But that would be just streamline that aspect of this part of the business. It's in all honesty, it's one of my least favorites, is dealing with logistics and trying to figure out all the ways to save a dime here, save this here, inspectors, all that stuff. It's just, I like looking for products, and I like selling, and I like doing listings, and I like all it's almost more of the fun creative stuff that I like more so than digging into this. So I think, I don't know, that's where I am now, is trying to transition to just a new way to source products and to make continuous orders from that supplier and handle all the logistics where it's not all on my plate all the time. So that's where I'd say we have a great relationship with that supplier still. It just, I want to find a different method for sure to streamline it. That's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Kris, did you have any issues with your suppliers? I know, both of you had great relationships with them, but great relationships in every great relationship. I mean, whether it's your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, boyfriend, you're going to have problems, right? And it's not the first time you have a problem. You ditch them or you start bashing them and you say, you did this wrong, you did that. Start kitchen sinking, right? I think that's what they call it. It's all about talking and conversations. But did you guys have, Kris, did you have any problems with your suppliers or freight forwarders or QC inspectors, anything?
Yeah, and it's on me on this one. It's not getting inspections. Like that's
it's not you, it's me sort of thing.
Yeah. But I would send them the UPC code and say, okay, here's a UPC code for this package, and then it would get created, but they would send it and the UPC code wouldn't be on there, and it was the little things that would make a huge headache, and that was one of them. Like not having the UPC code on the right color, or switching the colors around, or not putting the right color of collar in the right box. Like, a lot of moving parts, and I didn't do inspections. I should have done them faster, because I would get returns saying this is the wrong item, or I ordered this color and I got this color, or they would be broken, defective. Like there would be a rattle inside of it and it wouldn't work. So moving forward, and this took me again like year and a half, 2 years probably to figure this out. I got inspections, and then that made the supplier more like, okay, this is going to be a real deal. Like he's going to do this every time. So every time we do an order, let's make sure that it's highest quality, because he's going to do an inspection anyway. And honestly, I loved the inspection part, because the guy I used at the time would do like a Skype call, and I would just be on my computer and going through the factory with him on a Skype call. And he'd say, hey, here's your product. And we would just go through it and test it. And he'd say, does this look right, sir? And I'd say, yep, that looks right. Like, show me the UPC code and let's see the packaging. And it was kind of fun, because you get to see the back end of it. Like you're placing the order, but you don't really get to see how it's all made and stuff. And so that was kind of a good experience. But the bad part on my end, and I'll take credit for it, was not getting inspections done. And that's what I would encourage any seller out there to do. If you're not doing it, it's worth it, because you're going to have a hassle in the long run. And so inspection, that's something I'll always do now.
I love that. Yeah. No, that's it should be top of mind for everyone. It's an investment. It's not a loss. Right. But part of this, and we've talked about the podcast that you guys listen to, talked about YouTube that you guys just were searching on. There's this tremendous sense of community, right, in Amazon, which I find absolutely fascinating, because I don't see it in any other market. Whether it's construction, they have like small little builders associations, but when it comes to Amazon, they have these like thousands of people groups, and I know you guys are members of some of them. But did you have that back in 2014, 2015 also? No. Okay. Yeah,
I think this is the main point, and I'd love to touch on this, because Kris and I are talking about mistakes that we made. Of course, everyone's going to make mistakes, but I would wager that every mistake we made stemmed from one major mistake, and that's not networking enough. It seems like this is you can start this business out of your house, and you can do this a one-man show. It's an amazing opportunity. You can be everything. You can, sell products all over the world, working from home all by yourself. None of that happens though if you're not constantly invested in learning, knowledge, partnerships. That I did not invest in that enough. I listened to a great podcast. It was Scott Volker, who's the amazing seller. He's still rocking it on this podcast. Great actionable tips. I'd follow them, but going to Kris, talking about the inspections. I didn't do inspections for the first 3 years I was selling on Amazon. I never did one inspection. Wow. And I got incredibly lucky. I think the only thing that saved me there was my product was so commoditized that, it was a matter of, how many units were defective or something of that nature. But there wasn't that many because it's so easy to make this product. I think so. I got lucky. If it was something like electronics or whatever, I would have been in trouble. But to my point about the networking, since Kris and I started the podcast that we host, that's sort of been at least for me, my biggest dive into just meeting as many people in this community as possible. I feel like my knowledge base, my confidence in being able to do things in this business, the tools that are at my disposal now, getting to meet great people like you, and being able to pick your brain about how I can do better with the logistics. It's the most critical thing. I think that's more important than anything else in this business is networking. And you're right, this community is incredible because everyone, like Kris, me, anybody, we're willing to share our stories. And everyone's like that. Well, the only reason that we're doing it is because we've gotten so much feedback and so much help from other people who are just, we're all in this together. And there's nobody who's sitting here thinking, there are people, I guess, that do this. They're like, I'm not telling my story because I don't want you, stealing my product or doing, or I don't want to give out some tactic now there. But that's really not the case. Across the board, people are like, oh, here's your best PPC strategy. Here's what I'm doing. This is what's working. Here's the new things. It's amazing. And if you're not involved in it, that's your mistake. You could take as many courses as you want, read as many books. If you're not actively involved, you're not going to be staying up to date and have these great connections, people. That's the main takeaway, I think, from all this. That's the important part.
And I would agree. Like when I went to the conferences back in 2015, 16, I was the guy that didn't go do anything. I just sat in the room in the back and just listened and kind of kept to myself and hush hush. And looking back, I would change that totally. There's enough piece of the pie for everybody, right? Like there's enough competition. Competition's competition. It's going to be everywhere. But there's so much demand on Amazon that getting away from, and I always harp on this, and Dustin knows where I'm going, but your ego. It's your ego. Like you don't know it, but it is. Like you're getting your ego gets in the way, and you think that I don't need to go talk to this group because I know more than them. I listen to a podcast or I watch these YouTube videos. They're just starting out. I'm doing more money than they are, and that's where your mistake is. Like if you don't go network, or if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. We've heard that before, right? Like you got to get out of that room. So. I'm with Dustin, like swallowing your pride a little bit and being willing to share the story like we're doing on the podcast. I'll tell you I was uncomfortable at the very beginning. Dustin was all, let's do this. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if we should do this. And so it took Dustin got me out of that, but I'm so glad for that because we've been able to create connections and share our story. And hopefully we've prevented sellers from doing the same mistakes we've done just by listening. So again, to end on that, I would, get out and network, go join Clubhouse, the app. If you're not on Clubhouse, the app, you got to get on Clubhouse, the app. But go join stuff, go join masterminds, go join Facebook groups and just talk to people because you're going to learn a lot.
Well, yeah. I've talked about it a couple of times, but, we're going to keep to a tight hour here because we know you guys have obligations. But let's talk about 2 Amazon sellers and a microphone real quick.
Well, listen to it, subscribe to it,
smash the like buttons and all.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's our podcast. It's super casual. It's fun. We talk to great people like you guys all the time on our podcast. If we don't have a guest, Kris and I usually come up with some relevant Amazon topic that we can talk about, or we have a nice unique view because we run our own businesses. We work for a Solozo, which is a SaaS company in the space, and so we see all the behind the scenes of what it's like working with a company like Solozo, and we talk to sellers all day long in our role at Solozo, where we're sort of looking at their business and showing them Solozo and how we can automate their advertising. So we hear all kinds of cool stories. We sort of see new trends that are on the way, and we like to talk about them on the podcast. So if anybody's interested, come find us. You can find us everywhere that podcasts exist.
2 sellers and a microphone.
Yep.
Yeah.
But last thing, before we let you guys go, Solozo, something I definitely want everyone to know about. Can you tell us a little bit more about who that helps? Does it help the new Amazon seller that has the $500 and is going to Alibaba and sourcing their own product? Or is there like a certain threshold? Like, hey, once you are spending a certain amount in advertising, come to Solozo.
It's anybody. It's beginning sellers starting out, and it's advanced sellers. And what's really cool about that, I know that's kind of a cliche answer, but everybody who signs on to Solozo, they get an onboarding call with Dustin or myself, or they get a demo call with Dustin and myself. When we do that onboarding call or that demo call, we know right away where you're at. So if you're just starting out and your listings are kind of iffy, and you got a few images and the title is kind of spotty and your bullet points aren't very good, we won't have you sign up for Solozo. You're not ready yet. You'll be given advice like, hey, go get your better listing, go do more reviews, go do all that stuff first, and then come back and talk to us, and we'll help you out as far as getting started with Solozo. But if you're a seller that has an established listing, reviews, got good photos, and you're selling, and you know how to run ads, and you know what PPC is, and you know what manual, broad match, and all that stuff is, you're going to be gone to the next tier. You're going to get a 14-day trial. You're going to go through your account too and start. So I would encourage anybody, if you're just starting out and you want to run an idea by somebody, or you're not really sure what to do here, like, just book a call with Dustin and I. It doesn't take us but 30 minutes. We can help you out and give you the right direction. And you're not just spinning your wheels, watching YouTube and going down a rabbit hole. Like, go book a call, figure it out, and let's move on to the next stage, and then get you on Solozo. So it works for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Free consulting. If everyone that's listening, just sign up for Solozo, get a free 30-minute consultation with Kris and Dustin on your listing. There we go.
Got it.
Yep, absolutely.
We do something very similar here. So
we don't mind. We don't mind.
Yeah. No, I love that process. That's a great onboarding process. And I think on that note, I guess we can wrap up. I know you guys, as Lisa mentioned, you guys have other obligations, but honestly, from the bottom of my heart, you guys have had me on. I had a great time there. I hope you guys had a great time here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us.
We'll do it anytime.
All right, guys.
All right. Perfect.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.